Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there, having a great start to your Tuesday and a great work week out there so far. I got you a big update on what is now Hurricane Idalia. It was dubbed a hurricane overnight. We'll go over what she looks like right now. We'll go over the latest information from the National Hurricane Center. We'll compare model guidance. We'll talk about impacts, which I understand is probably what a lot of people want to know about. And we'll even talk about the severe weather threat that Idalia is going to bring today into tomorrow for areas of the southeast, as we have what we call a dirty side of these tropical systems. Very, very weak tropical systems. Sometimes you don't have this, but when you get into like a tropical depression, storm, and definitely a hurricane on the northeast quadrant of these tropical systems, you have a raging low-level jet, which is basically winds about a mile up in the atmosphere that are moving very quickly. This provides a lot of wind shear for basically tornadoes. So we need to watch out for that. We'll talk about that at the tail end of the video, and we'll break it all down for you folks. If you want to skip ahead, I have timestamps up about 5 to 10 minutes after I've dropped this video. Take advantage of them if you just want to hear about certain information. But I'll tell you guys, today is a day where information is going to change quickly. We're expecting this, though. This is not unexpected, but if you're watching this video and it's like 1, 2 p.m., chances are Idalia will look much different. She's starting to undergo some pretty decent intensification this morning, and there could be a period later today where she undergoes rapid intensification, where she strengthens very quickly. So we're going to go over all this information. For you folks who typically tune in for a daily forecast, I do apologize. I'm probably going to leave you guys hanging this morning just because just a timing issue. I do plan on chasing this, so this will be my last update, guys. The rest of the footage you get regarding Idalia will be literally storm chasing footage. I talked about it in last night's video, and I went live yesterday kind of explaining my plan. Follow along if you want. I definitely appreciate the support. I'm about to hit 50,000 subscribers, so I definitely just appreciate the great growth on the channel over the last few days, and appreciate you guys choosing my channel to view. And if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. You guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it and so others can do so too. I have not had a chance to acknowledge the comments from last night's video, but I'll get to it later today, I do promise. We'll take a look at what's going on with what is now Hurricane Idalia. She is definitely getting that look. She's popping off some intense convection right over the low-level circulation. Better stacked this morning, more vertically stacked, meaning you got the mid-level convection over that low-level circulation. Remember, that low-level circulation is the heart and soul of these tropical systems, literally the center of low pressure, and you really need a lot of moisture, a lot of shower and storm activity, really banding around this low-level circulation for it to have a chance to really strengthen. And as you can tell, I don't know if there's any people viewing from Western Cuba. If you are, let me know, but we haven't heard much from Cuba. It's wild. When Ian went over Cuba, we didn't hear much from Cuba then either until like a day later, and then we started getting some footage funneling in about how they got hit very hard. So I don't know if this is an area of Cuba that just, I don't know, we just don't get a lot of information from, but they definitely are still getting hit pretty hard from basically the outer bands on this east side of the storm, which is notoriously bad to have the worst impacts of any tropical system, not just Idalia. But this is the Florida Keys, is the southern tip of Florida, so Florida is beginning to emerge into the picture, and she's starting to pick up some speed. She's running at about 14 miles per hour, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but compared to how slow she's been going, that is pretty quick. So she's undergoing intensification. Chances are she'll be an 80, 85 mile per hour storm by the time we get into the next update or two, and then even stronger on later updates this morning and to this afternoon. But she's probably still dealing with a little bit of shear still, but this will basically drop off substantially probably over the next 12 hours. And then I think the door does open for rapid intensification. But I mean, it's got that look to it, right? Of a Category 1 hurricane, and we have to see how strong she's going to get over the next 24 to 30-ish hours. Water vapor loop, there is dry air nearby on the west side, but she has really cocooned herself very well with deep moisture, really protecting that low-level circulation. And there is still a little bit of shear that Idalia is dealing with, but for the most part, it's inevitable that it's not going to bother this system much more going forward. And I really think today will be all eyes will be on the satellite visibility on what she is doing, because I really think that she is going to rapidly intensify at some time today. So this is what she looks like. She's coming, unfortunately. So latest information from the National Hurricane Center. This is a 981 millibar hurricane. This is from 5 a.m., so this dropped a little over an hour ago. Some of you folks might be tuning in. It's around 8 a.m. This might increase to an 80, 85 mile per hour hurricane. We're expecting this big time today. I mean, by the time we get into 2 to 5 p.m. this afternoon, this could be a 100 mile per hour hurricane. Okay, so 75 mile per hour hurricane. Franklin's doing this thing out here. 140 mile per hour hurricane. And but let's keep rolling. Moving north at 14 miles per hour, 75 mile per hour category 1. Will maintain, obviously, hurricane status and should become a major hurricane by sometime tonight. You got hurricane warnings up in the red right here, tropical storm warnings up in the blue, even on the Space Coast of Florida, all the way up into the extreme southeast coastline of Georgia. Tropical storm watches up all the way up to almost Myrtle Beach. This does include basically all of the central and southern coastline of South Carolina. So we're expecting this to still be a tropical storm into the low country of South Carolina by late tomorrow night. Okay, we have seen some ticks west in model guidance. All right, so this is the cone has shifted a little bit further west, is what I'm trying to say. So this might impact more of the panhandle more. And if it continues to shift west, it's been very, very small ticks west over the last, I would say, 24 to 30 hours. If this continues to tick west, this will bring more and more impacts further inland into Georgia, South Carolina, even potentially North Carolina. Okay, but as you can tell, you see this orange, yellow area down here, center of circulation. You see how the orange area extends further out to the east and southeast. That tells you right there that the east side of the storm is the worst side of the storm. So another way to look at this is Zoom Earth. It's a great site, saying it'll be a 100 mile per hour hurricane by 2 p.m. this afternoon. So that's why I'm telling you, things are going to change quick today. And by the time we get into 2 a.m. Wednesday, basically, let's see, about 18 hours from now or something, give or take a few hours, this will be a 120 mile per hour category 3 major hurricane. This is not increased. The peak intensity is not increased from last night's video, but it could increase in later updates. Depends on what she does, I would say, over the next several hours. If she's already beginning to like really, really intensify before Idalia gets into this region, then man, we could reach category 4 status. Category 5, I don't see it happening. But I could see us sneak into category 4 status. But as you can tell, it's still a category 1 hurricane in the Florida-Georgia line. All right, still potentially a tropical storm, maybe low-end hurricane by the time it's screeching across southeast areas of Georgia. And this is still a full-fledged tropical storm getting into the low country and coastal regions of South Carolina. So there's going to be impacts into South Carolina. Okay, and I mean, even Wilmington's going to get impacts. Still a tropical storm right off the coastline of Wilmington, 2 p.m. Thursday. Okay, so let's compare model guidance. Latest GFS just came out. Remember, I want you to keep in mind, this is a 981 millibar storm right now. So basically, we have to see if this model guidance is initializing starting off too weak or too strong. The GFS starting off too weak. I can tell you right at the dot, it's starting this off as a 987. Remember, the lower the millibar number goes, the stronger the storm system. Okay, it's not the higher the stronger in this case, it's the lower it goes. So 987 millibar low pressure system. Okay, so initializing too weak, but we keep this going. It says that it will be as strong as what Idalia really is right now by the time we get into 2 p.m. this afternoon. But remember, it's already a 981 millibar low pressure storm. But we keep this going. We get into Wednesday morning. This says this is going to be a 955 millibar low pressure hurricane, which I would argue is probably a high-end category 2 hurricane making landfall right where the northern Big Bend and the panhandle of Florida meet, right here into this tucked in region of Florida. I thought about spitting out some town names in Florida, but I'm just going to name regions for you guys. I do apologize if I don't mention your town's name or anything like that, but I would watch out if you're in the central to eastern panhandle, right where it connects to the Big Bend, right where the coastline begins to dip southeast. Model guidance is really starting to like this area now instead of maybe right in the middle to the southern Big Bend region, where basically where the coastline straightens out somewhat in the western coast of Florida. This could change though. You guys know it. I'm not telling you. I think some people think that when I'm talking about this stuff, they think that's what I'm telling you is going to happen. I'm here to just compare model guidance and talk about trends, things like that. Sometimes I do give my own personal opinion on things. A lot of times I do. But sometimes I don't. I just let the weather work itself out. I'm just kind of here to give you all model guidance. And I really think that this will kind of make landfall in the northern Big Bend region, if you will, right when it begins to connect to the panhandle. If I was to make a call, I would say that would be the call. Maybe right here into this region, right into here. But we'll see. But the GFS makes landfall as a stout hurricane and then brings the impacts well into Georgia because it's further west. I mean, this plows a Category 1 hurricane right into South Georgia after making its way through the panhandle of Florida. You got low-end Category 1 hurricane conditions, strong tropical storm force conditions well into Georgia, okay? This is still a 989 tropical storm, millibar tropical storm, making its way through Georgia. I mean, look at this intense rain shield. All right, this is blasting through central Georgia, Macon, Augusta, getting into Columbia, South Carolina later tomorrow evening, and just a solid shield of rain. And then you're going to have a nasty onshore flow wrapping around, basically winds wrapping around this low pressure and pushing into the coastline of South Carolina and even North Carolina. We'll talk more on that here in a second, but this brings a solid shield of rain. GFS has been further west of model guidance the entire time. If it ends up making landfall with the GFS says it is, I would consider that a wind. We are going to talk about wind, but I would consider that a win for the GFS for Idalia as far as where it makes landfall. But we'll see what happens. But GFS is stuck to its guns here, and Euro, which I'm about to show you, is actually kind of tweaked towards the GFS. But Thursday morning, we're still dealing with a strong tropical system over South Carolina. It's bringing a big rain shield deep into North Carolina, maybe all the way up to Norfolk, Virginia. And then it gets off the coastline. And for the last 4 runs, the GFS has done this. It has done a loop-de-loop. It gets the remnants of Idalia, gets it back off the coast of the southeast this weekend, and then replows it back into the east coast of Florida sometime next week. And now it's a weak system, all right? It's just probably like a tropical depression. It doesn't really strengthen, but man, this would be wild. And then it gets it back into the Gulf of Mexico, basically back to where it's going to be later this morning. So that's something to watch. The GFS has done this for 4 runs in a row now. Okay, let's take a look at the European model. Notice it's initializing 2 weak, even weaker than the GFS. It's initializing as a 989 millibar low pressure storm. It's 2 weak, but I'll show it to you anyways. We continue. It does not strengthen this quick. I mean, by the time it takes all the way till about 2 a.m. tonight for it to show how strong Idalia already is right now. So honestly, there's no real point of even showing you this, but I'm kind of just showing you this just for the sake of where it wants to make landfall, not because of strength. But it makes landfall. It does make landfall as a sub 80 millibar low pressure hurricane, which I would argue is a strong Category 1 hurricane. I would say that this is the floor. Okay, this is the best case scenario, in my opinion, is what the Euro is showing. But as you can tell, the Euro has ticked further west. The Euro was consistent on it hitting further down here, but it has ticked a little further west into the northern Big Bend of Florida. Okay, but this keeps this going. And I mean, it even, you got to remember, let's see if we can back this up a run. This was the run. Let's see what run this is. This is the run from yesterday evening. This is the run from yesterday afternoon. And this is the run from yesterday morning. So this is a trend, right? Let's go all the way to the present run. Bang, bang, bang. And look, see those subtle ticks west? So it's ticking further west, okay? That'll bring more impacts to the panhandle and more impacts just further inland, deeper into Georgia and then into South Carolina. This is a trend that we have to watch. So Tomorrow afternoon, we got an all-out tropical storm right into Georgia. This will bring a lot of impacts into South Carolina and the coastal regions of South Carolina, and a big plume of rain and gusty conditions all the way into eastern North Carolina, waking up tomorrow morning, and then this heads off the coastline. And the the Euro is hinting at stalling this and trying to inch this back westward too, but it's not doing fully what the GFS is doing. Let's take a look at the HMON model. Now, I will tell you, this run is initializing too strong. Okay, it's initializing in a 974 millibar low pressure system, but it's really a 981. So I always want to just tell you guys that because I think I don't think it's responsible to just jump on here and show you the worst case models. It's great to find the best models that are initializing the best and roll with them, in my opinion. But I will show you this model because it does indicate the rapid strengthening. I mean, by the time it gets to this afternoon, we got a sub 965 millibar hurricane, which is probably a category 2 hurricane. And this is continuing. But I mean, look how further west it is. This makes landfall into this region right here, Florida. This is the Panhandle, if you're confused at where we are. Big Bend down here connecting to the Panhandle. It's making landfall right into here sometime mid-late morning tomorrow morning. Okay? So there was a time about a day and a half ago where we were thinking this was going to make landfall into the wee hours of the morning tomorrow morning. But things really slowed down, and they have remained slowed down. So confidence has increased on timing that it's probably going to be tomorrow morning when a technical landfall makes landfall. So, which will likely be tomorrow morning, maybe as late as like around noon, lunchtime tomorrow. So, this won't be a nighttime landfalling hurricane. So that's good news. But I can tell you you'll start to feel the impacts as early as tonight for these areas. But makes landfall as a sub 940 millibar hurricane, continues to move inland. And I will actually show you the HHAF model as far as further inland here in a second. And here we are. This model is initializing a little better. It's initializing as a 976 millibar hurricane. So it's still 5 millibars too strong, but a little bit better than the HMON model. And we keep this going, and it's saying it's going to strengthen big time over now, between now and basically the next 3 or 4 hours. It deepens this to a 938 millibar hurricane, which I would argue you're pushing high-end Category 3, low-end Category 4 status at around 2 a.m. tonight. And then here it comes. It makes this into a 935 millibar hurricane at around 11 a.m. tomorrow morning, makes landfall right into this region right here, Florida, right where the Panhandle connects to that Big Bend area. And then you continue to keep this going. And I can tell you the hurricane models have stuck to their guns about this being a high-end scenario. Global models, you know, are right around that, I would say, high-end Category 1, high-end Category 2 area, okay? But this makes landfall, and this brings big impacts well inland. Okay, we know it's going to bring catastrophic impacts to wherever that eye wall makes landfall into Florida, whether it's the Big Bend or the Panhandle. Catastrophic impacts right where that low pressure is. Okay, but I'm telling you, when you get into Georgia, power outages are going to happen all day tomorrow afternoon. You're going to have a full-fledged Category 1 weakening into a strong tropical storm throughout the afternoon, obviously because this system's over land. But I'm telling you, if you're in South Georgia, Southeast Georgia, I mean, maybe as far north as like Macon, Augusta, expect power outages tomorrow afternoon. I expect schools to be canceled deep into Georgia tomorrow, and they should be. They absolutely should be. And this continues. You might even get some schools letting out early in the low country of South Carolina tomorrow. And this continues. I mean, you can see the number dropping because it's over land. It's weakening. But this continues, guys, and finally makes it, that center of low pressure makes it all the way into the low country of South Carolina by the middle of the night tomorrow night. And it doesn't have this center of low pressure getting as far north as maybe the global models are. But man, you see these outer bands right in here. These could produce tornadoes, guys. I'm telling you, this could produce tornadic activity in the middle of the night tomorrow night for like Myrtle Beach, Wilmington. You see these bands? These are that dirty side of that tropical system, which will still be here even with a weakening tropical system, okay? And then this continues. I mean, look at these bands funneling in into eastern North Carolina. Thursday morning, we could be dealing with a tornado threat for sure for these areas. And here's the center of low pressure. This gets out into the ocean and does whatever it does after that. So one thing I want to show you regarding this western trend, okay? This was the EPS, the European Ensembles, which combines 51 members into one run and then throws all 51 of the members on here that do develop. This was the runs yesterday afternoon, the lunchtime models. This is the runs overnight last night. Okay, watch this tick you're about to see between all this. Watch this tick west. Okay. You see how everything ticked west? Hopefully you noticed it. And then everything consolidated more. It kind of squeezed together more, which means that not only did it tick west, but confidence increased on that tick west. So this is interesting. It really is. So, you know, if you live a little bit further north into the Big Bend area or maybe the Eastern Panhandle, I don't know where you Floridians consider where the Panhandle connects to the Big Bend, but wherever that is, it just seems like the models are coming together to that region right there. Okay, so I thought that was interesting to show you guys. Let's talk about impacts. Take a deep breath so we can muscle our way through this. Rainfall in that orange area that you see, 6 to 10 inches of rain. And notice, even where this makes landfall, I mean, yeah, a lot of rain will obviously fall, right? But look as you get into Georgia and to South Carolina, even pockets into the PD of South Carolina, and even just north of Wilmington, there's pockets of 6 to 10 inches of rain well after this makes landfall. And the yellow, that's 4 to 6 inches of rain. A lot of rain is going to fall in these areas. Okay, even Tampa Bay, 4 to 6 inches of rain. Looks like it's decreased somewhat, but just like with any tropical system, flooding will be a threat. And I know this is going to be kind of small on your screen, but this is another way to look at it from the National Weather Service, going for obviously 6 to 8 inches of rain right here where, you know, the most intense convection and storms are, producing the most tropical moisture, basically where the center of circulation moves in. I mean, going for 5 to 6 inches of rain around the Tampa Bay, Sarasota region. A lot of rain into southeast Georgia, 6, 7 inches of rain. There will be flooding issues ongoing in this region. You move a little bit further northeast. Look at the Carolinas, southeast Georgia, eastern Carolinas. I mean, even where I live, 4 to 5 inches of rain could fall. There's a pretty stout cutoff. All right, some of this rain over here is from a stalled boundary today. There'll be a lot of storm activity today. But all this right in here is from the tropical moisture. So a lot of rain is going to fall. I mean, look at eastern South Carolina. Between now and this is basically between now and Thursday evening. So not a huge time frame, right? 5, 6, 7 inches of rain could fall in these regions. Okay. And you look at the National Weather Service excessive rainfall outlook. This is rainfall, the flash flood threat between now and the next 3 days. You have a moderate risk. If you don't know what that is, it's basically in this region. That means there is a 40% chance of flash flood guidance being met, basically within 25 miles in a given location. And we will absolutely have flash flooding in this red area. This could get pushed a little bit further west, just depending on the track. That's one thing we got to watch. But flooding is going to be a huge issue. Now, storm surge is another issue, guys. There's an unusual, very high tide ongoing right now, so this isn't going to help anything. But 8 to 12 feet of storm surge into the Big Bend of Florida. They're going for 4 to 7 feet of storm surge into Tampa Bay, Clearwater region, and just south of Tampa Bay, 3 to 5 feet, and then the southwest coastline of Florida, 2 to 4 feet. This could change a little bit as it moves a little bit further west down the Panhandle, but we'll see what happens. I could see the storm surge going up in this yellow area where it says 2 to 4 feet for the coastal regions of Georgia and South Carolina, and I'm about to talk about why here in a second, but I could definitely see this being more of an issue for Georgia and South Carolina with the curvature of the coast and where the tropical system is going to be going over Georgia. I could see this becoming a big issue for areas like Charleston. I think that it's going to be a bigger issue than what people realize maybe for the low country of South Carolina. Could be totally wrong. But with the way it's approaching and the fact that it's not moving in and going way up into like the southern Alps and it's moving into this way kind of right here, I think there's going to be issues with storm surge even in South Carolina. This is talking about winds, and we're going to talk a little bit about storm surge again here in a second, but it's saying that tropical storm force conditions, wind-wise, could reach the Tampa Bay area as early as tonight around 8 p.m. They should reach the Big Bend, Panhandle, northern Florida into tonight. And then by tomorrow about 8 a.m., this is beginning to reach the coastal regions of Georgia and then takes over all of eastern South Carolina tomorrow pretty much during the day, as this basically Idalia is closing in on this area. Another way to look at this, I'll show the HFB model. Here it is. You can see this core, and this is wind speeds. Okay, this is not wind gusts, just wind speeds. And here it comes. So most people know with any tropical system, the closer you get to the eye of the hurricane, or the eye wall, we call it an inner and outer eye wall. Basically, that inner eye wall, if you just happen to be, if your house just happens to be impacted by that, or, you know, if you're just happen to be in that area, that is where the catastrophic conditions will be. Now, the further you get away from the inner eye wall, the better the conditions get. Now, you know, if you're 50 miles away from the middle of the hurricane, you're still going to get high impacts. But if you're tucked in right where this eye wall is, it's going to look like a bomb went off. I mean, Fort Myers, they will tell you that. Where Hurricane Michael hit, there's a lot of pine trees in this area, and the pine trees are still bent in this region of Florida where Hurricane Michael went through. I went down there and chased the tropical storm 2 years ago, and I was just blown away at how just all the trees were still slanted from Hurricane Michael 3 years prior. Now, I'm sure they're recovering since then, but this is going to move in and bring 100 to 120 mile per hour wind gusts tucked in right where this eye wall is. It's just trying to figure out where that occurs. Now, outside of the eye, like the outer eye wall, and just, you know, 50 to 100 miles away from the center of the low pressure of the hurricane, you're still going to get wind gusts pushing 50 to 60, 70, 80 miles per hour. But as this moves and makes landfall tomorrow morning, I mean, you still got winds gusting potentially to 50, 60 miles per hour, but this is just consistent wind speeds, right? 30, 40, 50 miles per hour moving into southern Georgia. And then this is where I want to stop it right here. You got a weakening tropical system around 11 p.m. tomorrow night, but you see this onshore flow right here? See, look at these streamlines. Low pressure right into here, right? Okay, and then you got winds doing like this around this low pressure, right? Sorry about the really bad arrows, but if you notice right here, this is bringing a flow into the coastline of South Carolina. Okay, so this is basically pushing a ton of water into the coastal regions of South Carolina. This does include Charleston, which is notorious for flooding, even when you have a very kind of an unusual high tide. I'm telling you, it's going to get dicey in the coastal sections of South Carolina, even around Savannah, tomorrow evening into tomorrow night. This is going to be pushing a lot of water up against these bays and just these kind of intercoastal regions, and there's going to be an issue with storm surge. I think storm surge will increase for this area, and I think it could get bad up into Myrtle Beach, maybe even Wilmington also. Man, that's a terrible arrow. But you get what I'm saying, guys. And there's going to be gusty winds, too. Strong winds, heavy rain. But, man, I really think storm surge could be a real big issue right in this area for sure. So, last thing we'll talk about is the severe weather threat with Idalia. So, if you're not familiar with tropical systems, the east side of the tropical systems is what we call the dirty side, the east quadrant. It's basically where we have a raging low-level jet. The winds not only at the surface are gusting pretty strong, but about a mile up in the air, they're even stronger. Provides a lot of wind shear, basically a lot of wind energy for wind and tornadoes. So obviously there'll be some turning too with height because we have a tropical system which is turning itself. So in the brown area, this is for today, we have a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. I expect this to really materialize later this evening into the overnight hours. So like right now, you don't really have a tornado threat. But as we get this system a little bit closer, I think tonight into overnight tonight, this is when a tornado threat really becomes a big deal from Tampa Bay, just south of Tampa Bay, up to Gainesville, into the Big Bend of Florida. Okay, there's a 2% risk also all the way to Jacksonville, to Orlando, places like that. Okay, and you see why if you look at the HRRR model. And by the way, this is not a great model to look at a hurricane, but I'm showing you this just because it shows a great job at showing these outer bands. Here comes this tropical system this evening, and here comes these outer bands. You see these bands right into here, hitting like Tampa Bay, getting into northern sections of Florida. These are the bands that can produce tornadoes. They do almost with every single decently strong tropical system, and I don't think this will be any different just because this will be a strengthening tropical system. So these outer bands, before the approaching actual eye of Hurricane Idalia moves in, these bands will be producing tornado warnings left and right overnight tonight. So this will be a dangerous situation. So, you know, even if this does not make landfall into the Big Bend of Florida, you guys are going to be dealing with that dirty side of the system. Very, very strong wind still, and a definitely a legit tornado threat into this region. All these bands right here, even all the way over here into central Florida, even though the center of the storm is way over here, these would be dangerous. The HRRR model, by the way, is much further west. Does not even make landfall in the Big Bend at all. It's all in on the panhandle. So we'll continue to watch that. But this is that low-level jet I'm talking about. Winds about 850 millibars up, about a mile up in the atmosphere. And as you can tell, raging low-level jet overtakes the western and Big Bend of Florida. And yeah, that area right there and kind of this color right here, which is kind of a weird brownish white color, that is a low-level jet pushing 60 to 70 at times, 75 knots. That's winds about 85, 90 miles per hour, about a mile above our heads in this region. So you're going to have a ton of wind energy because it's a tropical system. I mean, the whole entire thing is wind energy. But this will be a dangerous setup for tornadoes also right into here. And then the tornado threat moves into Wednesday, okay? The actual day this will make landfall. And just with this picking up speed and basically moving up this entire region right into here, okay, everybody on that eastern side will be dealing with a tornado threat tomorrow and tomorrow afternoon. So further up in this little area right here, this will really emerge later in the time period as we're getting into late Wednesday night, Thursday morning, but you get the picture. So that's all I got, guys. Stay safe out there. Between now and going forward, it is going to be very difficult to answer your comments. I have a very chaotic day. But just got to get prepared. So if I do miss your comments, whether it's me going live, whatever it may be, I do apologize. You guys know I'm big on answering comments and acknowledging them. If there's any prayer requests that I miss, I do apologize also. But not only I will eventually pray over them, I just got to get to reading them, but I can promise you there's other people praying over your stuff too. So praying for you folks in Florida, even Georgia, South Carolina. That's all I got, guys. Stay safe out there. God bless all y'all, and I'll talk to you soon.